The transport ship docked at Station 7 with a soft hiss. Park stood near the airlock, her small bag hanging from her shoulder. She wore the standard gray uniform of an exchange cadet. Nothing special, nothing that made her stand out. But the moment the doors opened, every eye in the docking bay turned toward her. She was human, the first human to ever set foot in the Galactic Military Academy. Walked forward with steady steps. She kept her face calm and her eyes forward. Around her, aliens of every shape and size stopped what they were doing. Some whispered to each other. Others simply stared. A tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms dropped the crate it was carrying. A small furry being with large black eyes actually ran away. She had expected this. Earth had warned her. Humans were not just rare in the galaxy, they were feared. Her was classified as a Category 9, the highest rating possible. A planet so dangerous that most species believed nothing could survive there. And yet humans had not only survived, they had thrived. A man in a clean military uniform approached her. He was human too, with short black hair and tired eyes. His name tag read Lieutenant. "Corporal Park," he said with a small nod. "Welcome to 7. I am your liaison officer. I will help you during your time here." Saluted, "Thank you, sir." Looked around at the staring aliens inside. "Come, let us get you to your quarters before someone faints." They walked through the station together. 7 was massive. The halls were wide enough for the largest species to pass through. The walls were made of smooth white metal. Windows showed the purple and blue swirls of a nearby nebula. It was beautiful. Allowed herself a small moment to appreciate it. "The Academy has existed for 400 years, explained as they walked. "Species from across the galaxy send their best young warriors here to train. It is neutral ground. No wars, no politics, just training." "And now they have sent a human," said. "Yes," glanced at her. "You are a test, Corporal. Earth wants to join the galactic community. The Academy agreed to accept 1 human cadet as a trial. If you succeed, more will follow. If you fail—" He did not finish the sentence. Understood. She carried the weight of her entire species on her shoulders. They reached Barracks Wing 14. The door slid open to reveal a common room with several sleeping pods along the walls. 4 aliens were already inside. They all turned to look at. The first was a tall creature with shiny green armor and multiple eyes. The second was a being made of what looked like living stone, gray and rough. The third was a small reptile with bright orange scales and a nervous expression. The fourth was a pale creature with no visible eyes, just smooth skin where eyes should be. "These are your roommates," said. "I will leave you to introduce yourself." He left. The door closed behind him, stood alone with her new roommates. The spoke first. Its voice was clicking and sharp. "You are the—" "I am human," said simply. "My name is Park." "We know what you are." The stone creature's voice was deep and slow like grinding rocks. "We have heard the stories. Your planet has monsters that eat their own young, plants that kill with poison, water that falls from the sky and floods entire regions. Thought about rain, about tigers, about mosquitoes and earthquakes and hurricanes." "Yes," she said, "that is Earth." The small orange reptile made a squeaking sound. "How are you alive?" Considered the question. "We adapted, we learned. We built shelter and weapons and medicine. We did what we had to do." The eyeless creature tilted its head. "They say humans can survive anything, that you can eat poison and heal from wounds that would kill others, that you bond with predators and keep them as companions." Thought about her grandmother's cat, about the chili peppers her mother used in cooking, about the scar on her knee from when she fell off her bicycle at age 7. "Some of that is true," she admitted. "Some of it is exaggerated." None of her roommates seemed convinced. The next few days passed slowly. Attended orientation with hundreds of other cadets. She sat in classrooms and learned about galactic history, military tactics, and communication. She ate strange food in the cafeteria and tried to ignore the empty seats around her. During physical training, she held back. She ran slower than she could. She lifted less than she was able. She did not want to draw attention. She did not want to scare anyone. But she noticed the looks, the whispers. Not everyone was simply curious. Some were hostile, especially They were a proud warrior race. They were large reptilian creatures with thick scales and powerful tails. For decades, they had held the top rankings in combat training. They were the best fighters in the academy, and they did not like the attention the human was getting. On her third night, visited her in the barracks. His face was serious. "They are unhappy," he said quietly. "They see you as a threat to their reputation." Was cleaning her boots. "I have done nothing to them." "You exist, that is enough." Sat down across from her. "They will test you, they will try to make you react. My advice is simple, do not give them a reason." Looked up at him, her eyes were calm. "I did not come here to make enemies, Lieutenant. I came here to learn." Studied her for a long moment, then he nodded. "Good, keep that attitude." He stood to leave but paused at the door. "But Corporal, if they do push you, remember something. You are not just representing Earth. You are showing the galaxy what humanity truly is. Make it count." He left, sat alone in the quiet barracks. Through the window she could see the nebula glowing in the darkness of space. Somewhere beyond those colors was Earth, her home, her family, everything she was fighting for. She finished cleaning her boots and went to sleep. Tomorrow would be another day. She would keep her head down. She would work hard. She would prove that humans deserved their place among the stars. She did not know that tomorrow would change everything. The atrium was the heart of the academy. It was a massive dome made of transparent metal, showing the endless stars and the swirling colors of the nebula outside. Cadets from dozens of species gathered here between training sessions. They talked. They laughed. They formed friendships that would last lifetimes. Sat alone on a bench near the edge. She had a small tablet in her hands, reading about anatomy. She had made it a habit to study every species she encountered, their strengths, their weaknesses, the location of their nerve clusters and vital organs. It was not because she wanted to hurt anyone. It was because knowledge was survival. That lesson had been beaten into her by millions of years of human evolution. 3 days had passed since her arrival. She had kept her head down. She had worked hard in classes. She had performed just well enough in physical training to pass, but not enough to stand out. She thought she was being careful. She thought she was being smart. She was wrong. The voice was deep and rumbling. Looked up. A massive stood in front of her. He was easily 7 feet tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes that burned with anger. Behind him stood 3 more, all of them large and muscular. Recognized the leader. His name was. He held the current academy record for hand-to-hand combat. He had been champion for 3 years straight. No one had ever come close to defeating him. "Can I help you?" asked calmly. Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. His teeth were sharp and many. "I have been watching you, human. You move like you are afraid. You hold back in training. You hide your true abilities." Said nothing. "On my world," continued, "we earn our place through blood, through combat, through proving ourselves against worthy enemies." He leaned closer. His breath was hot and smelled like copper. "What did you earn yours through? Paperwork, political favors?" The atrium had gone quiet. Hundreds of cadets were watching now, could feel their eyes on her. She could hear the whispers spreading through the crowd. She closed her tablet and stood up slowly. She was much smaller then. The top of her head barely reached his chest, but she did not look away from his eyes. "I'm not here to fight you," she said. Her voice was steady. "I am here to learn just like everyone else." Laughed. It was a harsh, mocking sound. His 3 companions joined in. "Learn? What can a learn from us? Your kind survives on a planet that kills everything else. You are monsters pretending to be civilized." One of his companions, with a scar across his snout, stepped forward and spat its feet. The saliva sizzled slightly on the metal floor. Spit was mildly acidic. Did not move, she did not react. She simply looked at the spit, then back at. "Is this how earn respect?" she asked quietly. "By spitting on those who will not fight back." Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. His tail twitched, his claws flexed. "You dare question honor?" "I am asking a simple question." His companions spread out, forming a loose circle around. The crowd pulled back, giving them room. Noticed instructor at the edge of the atrium. The tall instructor was watching but not moving to intervene. "I challenge you," announced. His voice echoed through the dome. "Under Academy law, I formally challenge you to single combat. Refuse and you forfeit your honor, your standing, your place here." Knew the law. She had studied it during her preparation. A formal challenge could not be refused without consequences. If she backed down now, she would be marked as a coward. No one would respect her. Her mission would fail before it truly began. But if she accepted, she would have to fight. And if she fought, she would have to reveal what she truly was. She looked at the four surrounding her. Was the strongest, but the others were dangerous too. The one with the scar was named. The broad one with the broken horn was. The youngest with bright orange eyes was. She had memorized their files. She knew their fighting styles. She knew their weaknesses. The crowd held its breath. The silence was so complete that could hear her own heartbeat. Slow, steady, controlled. Words echoed in her mind. Do not give them a reason. But they had already given her no choice. She took a slow breath. In, out. She felt her body relax. Her muscles loosened. Her mind cleared. This was the state her instructors back on Earth called the quiet before the storm. It was the moment when a human stopped thinking and started acting. "You want to challenge me," said softly. "All four of you against one human." Grinned. "You may choose a champion if you wish. Someone to fight in your place. I am sure one of these other species would be happy to die for you." Looked around the atrium. Every face she saw was alien, strange, different. None of them would help her, none of them even knew her. She turned back to. Her eyes were calm, her voice was flat. "Fine." The word hung in the air like a blade. "I accept your challenge." His grin widened. He thought he had already won. He had no idea what was about to happen. Nobody did. Cracked his knuckles, rolled his thick neck, bounced on his feet, eager for blood. They had done this before, 4 against 1. It was their favorite way to break new cadets, to remind everyone who ruled this academy. Set down her tablet on the bench. She removed her jacket and folded it neatly beside the tablet. Underneath, she wore a simple gray undershirt. Her arms were bare. They were not muscular. They did not look strong. She looked like exactly what she was. A small human female standing alone against 4 massive warriors. The crowd began to murmur. Some were laughing. Others were shaking their heads in pity. A few were already looking away, unable to watch what they knew would be a slaughter. Instructor's multiple eyes focused on. His antennae twitched. He said nothing. Raised one clawed hand. "When my hand drops, we begin." Nodded. She stood relaxed, her arms loose at her sides. She did not take a fighting stance. She did not raise her fists. She simply waited. His hand dropped. And everything changed. The moment's hand dropped, all 4 attacked at once. They had done this many times before. They knew how to work together. Would charge from the front, using his massive body as a battering ram. Would come from the left, claws ready to tear flesh. Would circle right, fast and deadly. And would wait for the perfect moment to deliver the finishing blow. Against any other species in the galaxy, this formation was unstoppable. Against any other species, the fight would be over in seconds. They were right about that last part. What happened next took exactly 1.7 seconds, but for the hundreds of aliens watching, it might as well have been magic. Moved. To human eyes, her movements would have been fast but understandable. To alien eyes, she simply vanished. Charge met empty air. His massive body sailed past the spot where it had been standing. Before his brain could register what had happened was already behind him. She placed one hand on his back and pushed. It was a gentle push, almost friendly, but it was placed at exactly the right angle at exactly the right moment. His own momentum did the rest. He crashed into with the force of a speeding vehicle. The two went down in a tangle of scales and claws, sliding across the polished floor of the atrium. Was fast for he had already adjusted his attack, swinging a clawed hand towards head. If it connected, it would tear her face off. It did not connect. Ducked under the swing, her body bent in a way that looked impossible to the watching aliens. Her spine curved, her knees flexed, and she passed under his arm like water flowing around a rock. As she rose, her fingers found 3 specific points on his torso. She had studied anatomy for 3 days. She knew exactly where the nerve clusters were located. She knew exactly how much pressure to apply. She knew exactly what would happen. Made a choking sound. His eyes went wide. His body locked up as his nervous system overloaded with conflicting signals. He collapsed like a puppet with cut strings, hitting the floor with a heavy thud. He was not dead. He was not even injured, but he would not be moving for at least an hour. 0.9 seconds had passed. Was the last one standing. He was also the most dangerous. Where his companions had attacked with brute force, attacked with killing intent. He did not want to hurt, he wanted to end her. He lunged forward, his claws extended, his jaws open. He was going for her throat. This was not a sparring move. This was not a training exercise. This was murder. Did not run, she did not dodge. She stepped forward to meet him. In the frozen moment between heartbeats, their eyes met. Saw something in his gaze that made his blood run cold. There was no fear there, no panic, no hesitation. There was only calm, perfect, absolute calm. And underneath that calm, something ancient. Something that had survived ice ages and plagues and predators beyond counting. Something that had crawled out of the mud and refused to die no matter what the universe threw at it. For the first time in his life, understood what it meant to face Caught his wrist. Her small hand closed around his arm with a grip like iron. She twisted, using his own speed and weight against him. Her hips shifted. Her shoulder dropped. And champion of the Academy, undefeated warrior of the Dominion, flew through the air. He hit the ground hard enough to crack the floor. Before he could move, before he could breathe, before he could think, his boot was on his throat. 1.7 seconds total. The atrium was silent. No one had seen what happened. Their eyes had watched, but their brains could not process the information fast enough. One moment, 4 warriors were attacking a small human female. The next moment, all 4 of them were on the ground, and the human was standing over their leader with her foot on his neck. Looked down at her, breathing was normal. She was not sweating, she was not even slightly tired. To her this had been easy, almost boring. "I said I was not here to fight you," she said quietly. Her voice carried in the silence. Every being in the atrium heard her words. "But you did not listen." She removed her boot from his throat. She stepped back. She did not offer him a hand or help him up. That would be an insult in culture. Lay on the cracked floor, staring at the transparent ceiling above him. The nebula swirled in beautiful colors. Stars glittered like diamonds. He had been defeated, completely, utterly, in less time than it took to blink. Slowly walked back to the bench. She picked up her jacket and put it on. She picked up her tablet and tucked it under her arm. Her movements were calm and unhurried, as if nothing important had happened. And were struggling to untangle themselves. Was still frozen on the floor, his eyes moving frantically as his paralyzed body refused to obey his commands. The crowd remained silent. No one knew what to say. No one knew what to think. Instructor's antennae were trembling. His multiple eyes blinked rapidly. He had seen many things in his long career. He had never seen anything like this. Paused at the edge of the crowd, she turned back to look at the fallen one last time. "On Earth," she said, "we have a saying, do not start fights you cannot finish." Then she walked away. The crowd parted before her like waves before a ship. No one tried to stop her. No one dared to speak to her. They simply watched as the small human female disappeared into the corridor. Behind her finally managed to sit up. His hand went to his throat where her boot had been. There would be no bruise. She had not pressed hard enough to leave a mark. She had not pressed hard enough to cause any real pain. She had shown him mercy. That was the most terrifying part of all. In the observation room above the atrium stood watching through the window. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. He had seen the footage from Earth's military training programs. He had read the reports about human capabilities. He had known, intellectually, what humans could do. But seeing it in person was different. Seeing that small woman dismantle 4 warriors in less than 2 seconds made him realize something important. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The video spread like fire. Within 1 hour, every cadet on Station 7 had seen it. Within 1 day, it had reached the military command centers of a dozen species. Within 1 week, billions of beings across the galaxy had watched a small human female defeat 4 warriors in 1.7 seconds. The analysts were the first to respond. Military experts from every major civilization studied the footage frame by frame. They slowed it down to 1,000th normal speed. They used advanced tracking software to follow every movement. They wrote reports and held meetings and argued with each other about what they had witnessed. Their conclusion was unanimous and terrifying. The human had been holding back. Her movements were controlled, precise, calculated. She had used exactly enough force to disable her opponents and not a single bit more. She had avoided causing any permanent injury. She had not killed anyone, even though she clearly could have. This was not a warrior fighting for survival. This was a predator playing with its food. Knew none of this. She continued her routine as if nothing had changed. She attended classes. She completed her training exercises. She ate her meals in the cafeteria. The only difference was that now no one sat near her. Before, the empty seats around her had been because of fear of the unknown. Now they were because of fear of her. One evening, she found waiting for her on the observation deck. This was her favorite place on the station. She came here every night to look at the stars and think about home. "You have become famous," said without greeting. Stood beside him at the window. The nebula painted the darkness in shades of purple and gold. "I did not want fame." "I know," was quiet for a moment. "The footage has been analyzed by experts across the galaxy. Do you know what they found?" Said nothing. "They found that you could have killed all 4 of them in less than a second if you wanted to. They found that every single movement you made was designed to minimize harm. They found that you were holding back so much that it is almost insulting. Would they have preferred I killed them?" Turned to look at her. His expression was complicated. "Some would have. The Dominion respects only strength. By showing mercy, you confuse them. They do not know how to respond." Watched a shooting star streak across the viewport. It was probably a piece of space debris burning up in the station's defense shields. "On Earth, we learned a long time ago that killing is easy. Living with the consequences is hard. I did not come here to kill anyone. I came here to show that humans can be more than monsters." "And you think defeating 4 warriors in less than 2 seconds shows that?" "I think showing mercy when I did not have to shows that." Considered this, then he nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right." The next day received a message, wanted to see her. He was still in the medical bay, recovering from his injuries. His body was fine, but his pride had taken longer to heal. She went. The medical bay was quiet. Rows of beds lined the walls, most of them empty. Lay in one near the back, his massive body barely fitting on the mattress designed for smaller species. His three companions were in nearby beds, also recovering. When entered, all four looked at her. She saw many emotions in their eyes: shame, confusion, anger, but beneath all of that she saw something new. Respect. Human said, his voice was rough. You came. You asked, stopped at the foot of his bed. What do you want? Was silent for a long moment. His yellow eyes studied her face. I want to understand. How did you defeat us so easily? We are born warriors. We train from childhood to fight. How did a small female from a backwater planet beat us without even trying? Pulled up a chair and sat down. She thought about how to explain, how to put into words something that her species had never needed to explain before. On Earth, she began, everything wants to kill you. The weather is extreme. The animals are predators. The plants are poisonous. The water can drown you. The sun can burn you. The cold can freeze you. Even the smallest creatures carry diseases that can end your life in days. They listened in silence. Humans did not become the dominant species on our planet because we were the strongest or the fastest or the most dangerous. We survived because we learned. We adapted. We studied every threat and found ways to overcome it. Met's eyes. I did not beat you because I am stronger than you. I beat you because I studied you. I learned your anatomy. I memorized your fighting styles. I identified your weaknesses. Before you even challenged me, I already knew exactly how to defeat you. His jaw tightened. You studied us like prey. I studied you like a threat. There is a difference. Leaned back in her chair. On Earth, the threats never stop. Every generation faces new challenges, new diseases, new disasters, new enemies. We learn to never underestimate anything. We learn to always be prepared. We learn that survival is not about being the biggest or the strongest. It is about being the most adaptable, the most willing to do whatever it takes. Spoke up from his bed. His voice was weak, but his eyes were bright with curiosity. Is it true that you keep predators as companions, that you bond with animals that could kill you? Smiled slightly. It was the first smile anyone at the academy had seen from her. Yes, we call them pets, dogs, cats, sometimes bigger animals. They live in our homes, they sleep in our beds, they love us and we love them. But why? Asked. What purpose does it serve? Companionship, loyalty, love. Shrugged. Humans are social creatures. We form bonds with others even when those others are dangerous, perhaps especially when they are dangerous. Grunted. That is insane. That is humanity. Was quiet through this exchange. Finally, he spoke again. You could have killed me. In that moment when your foot was on my throat, you could have crushed my windpipe with a single press. Why did you not? Looked at him steadily. Because killing you would have proved nothing. Because mercy is harder than murder. Because I wanted you to live and remember this moment. She stood up. Because someday, I hope we can be allies instead of enemies. She walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned back. The galaxy is bigger than any of us. There are threats out there that make our conflicts look like children fighting over toys. When those threats come, it will not matter if you are or human or any other species. All that will matter is whether we stand together or fall alone. She left the medical bay. Behind her, 4 warriors lay in their beds, thinking about everything she had said. Stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then slowly, he raised one hand and touched his throat where her boot had been. She had shown him mercy, and in that mercy, she had shown him something far more important. Hope. 1 month passed. The academy had changed. Everyone could feel it. The air was different. The conversations were different. The way beings looked at each other was different. And at the center of all that change was one small human female who had refused to be a monster. Stood in the training hall, surrounded by a circle of cadets. They watched as she demonstrated a basic human combat technique. Her movements were slow, deliberate, easy to follow. The key is not strength, she explained. The key is understanding how bodies move. Every species has weight. Every species has momentum. Use that against them and you do not need to be stronger. You need to be smarter. She showed the technique again, a simple redirect, a gentle push, using an opponent's energy against them. Stood at the front of the watching group. He had been released from the medical bay 2 weeks ago. Since then, he had asked to train with him every single day. At first, she had refused. Then she had agreed with one condition. The training had to be open to everyone. Now, dozens of cadets from a dozen species gathered to learn from the trained beside. Stone beings practiced with reptiles. Creatures that had been enemies for generations worked together, united by a shared desire to learn. After the session ended, approached. His 3 companions followed close behind. Over the past weeks they had become something unexpected, not friends exactly, but allies, partners, perhaps the beginning of friends. "You are a strange teacher," said. It was as close to a compliment as ever gave. Wiped sweat from her forehead. "I am not a teacher, I am just sharing what I know." "That is what teachers do." She considered this and nodded. "Then I suppose I am a teacher." Grunted, he had the best natural talent for the techniques taught. His reflexes were sharp and he learned quickly. "When we first met, I spat at your feet. I owe you an apology for that." "You owe me nothing," said. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we do after." Bounced on his feet. He had recovered fully from the paralysis and now had endless energy. "Is it true that Earth has approved sending more humans to the Academy? I heard rumors." His expression softened. "Yes, the first group will arrive next cycle, 10 human cadets. If they succeed, more will follow." Crossed his thick arms. "The galaxy is not ready for more of you." "The galaxy will adapt, it always does." That evening the Academy held a formal assembly. All cadets gathered in the Great Hall, a massive chamber with walls made of living crystal that glowed with soft light. Instructor stood at the front, his body straight and tall. "Cadets," he began, his clicking voice amplified by the hall's acoustics, "we gather today to recognize achievement. For 400 years, this academy has trained warriors from across the galaxy. We have seen champions rise and fall. We have witnessed great feats and terrible failures. But in all that time, we have never seen anything quite like what happened 1 month ago." The hall was silent. Everyone knew what he was referring to. Corporal Park of Earth demonstrated something that day. Not just physical skill, not just combat ability. She demonstrated restraint, mercy, control. His multiple eyes swept across the assembled cadets. These qualities are rare in warriors. They are even rarer in those who possess the power to destroy without consequence. He turned to look at, who stood among the other cadets. "For centuries, we believed we understood the limits of biological capability. We believed we knew what was possible. Corporal Park has reminded us that the universe is far stranger and far more wondrous than we assumed. Humanity's inclusion in this academy is no longer a trial. It is permanent." A murmur swept through the crowd, felt her heart skip a beat. "Furthermore," continued, "Corporal Park has been promoted to sergeant and assigned as a training assistant for incoming cadets. Her methods will be incorporated into our standard curriculum." Applause erupted. It started with and his companions, their clawed hands creating a thunderous sound. Then it spread. Species that had never agreed on anything found themselves united in applause for one small human. Later that night, stood on the observation deck. The nebula painted the darkness in colors that had no names in human language. Stars glittered like the eyes of ancient gods watching over their creation. Found her there, as he often did. "Congratulations, Sergeant Park," he said with a small smile. Did not turn away from the window. "It does not feel real." "It is real. You changed things, not just here, everywhere." Stood beside her. The footage of your fight is still spreading. Governments are discussing what it means. Military strategists are rewriting their assessments of human capability. Philosophers are debating the nature of mercy and strength. All because I did not kill 4 warriors who attacked me. All because you showed that strength and kindness can exist together. That power does not require cruelty. His voice grew serious. The galaxy has seen many powerful species. It has never seen one that chooses restraint over destruction. That is what makes humanity different. That is what makes humanity terrifying. Finally turned to look at him, terrifying. To those who believe power must always be cruel, yes, terrifying, smiled. To everyone else, you offer something they have never had before. What is that? Hope, the hope that maybe the strong can protect the weak instead of preying on them. The hope that maybe violence is not the only answer. The hope that maybe, just maybe, the universe can be better than it has been. Turned back to the window. In the darkness between the stars, she thought she could see Earth, a tiny blue dot surrounded by endless night, her home, her species, everything she had been sent to represent. We are just getting started, she said quietly. Humanity has so much more to offer, so much more to share, so much more to learn, and so much more to teach. Nodded. Behind her she heard footsteps. She turned to see and his companions approaching. Other cadets followed, beings from a dozen different species, all coming to stand with her on the observation deck. Stopped beside her. He looked out at the stars. My father told me once that the true measure of a warrior is not how many enemies they kill, it is how many enemies they turn into friends. Your father sounds wise. He died fighting a war that should never have happened. His voice was heavy. I have spent my whole life preparing to follow in his footsteps, to die gloriously in battle, but you have shown me another path. Looked at the growing crowd around her, and stone beings and reptiles, creatures of every shape and size, all united by something new, something that had not existed a month ago. What path is that? She asked. Met her eyes. The path of building instead of destroying, of connecting instead of dividing, of living for something instead of just being willing to die for it. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away. That is what humanity has always wanted, to build, to connect, to live. We just needed someone to give us a chance. You gave yourself that chance, said. We just watched. And learned, added. And changed, finished. Looked at each of them. These beings who had been her enemies a month ago, who had attacked her with the intent to humiliate and harm, who now stood beside her as something new. Allies, friends, the beginning of something beautiful. She turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, 10 human cadets were preparing to make the journey to 7. Behind them would come hundreds more, thousands, an entire species reaching out to the galaxy with open hands. We are just getting started, she said again. And this time she was not alone. This time, the whole galaxy was listening.